What matters are the fears and thoughts we usually keep hidden. Disordinati is where people strip back the layers.
Hello everyone, I'm here with Kevin Wooding. Hello Kevin, welcome to my podcast.
Yeah.
So the title of the podcast today is The Art of Seeing.
Ooh.
And so maybe we could start by saying what seeing is to you. What does it mean in your life? And knowing that you're a teacher of the Bates method, among many other things, so we can slowly start this vision journey by looking at what seeing is to you.
It's very good. I mean, when you said The Art of Seeing, I immediately thought of there's a book, and it was by Aldous Huxley, very well-known writer, and he didn't meet the originator. He met one of the students, a lady called Margaret Corbett. It's an interesting word because when we use the word I see, we often use it to mean I understand. It's very much closely entwined with, we have the physical aspect of seeing, but when a person does see clearly, it also means they understand who they are and where they are looking and what they're looking at.
How beautiful. So sometimes the English language can be actually more beautiful than the Italian one because we don't have this.
Also, other aspects, when you're looking directly at something, we actually also have an expression about understanding something very specifically. We might say, I see the point.
Yeah.
And it's exactly what the eye does when I'm looking at that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not looking at the whole of it, I'm looking at that tiny part of it.
What first drew you to the Bates method, and what were some aha moments in your own journey that convinced you that this was your path? And maybe you can also explain what the Bates method is.
Yes, I didn't expect to do anything like this, I have to say. I mean, I was a young fellow growing up, and I got glasses quite early before I was 10. And I was wearing them, and my vision was getting worse every two years, or sometimes every year. And I just assumed this was it. Like everybody else, was saying around me that we don't have any other way of doing anything about this. I did ask a question from my ophthalmologist when I was about 17 or so. Starting to think like, what about? And I had another increase on the strength of the glasses, and I said, well, surely isn't there something I can do to stop this from happening? And he said very clearly, no. There are two factors that affect your eyesight: heredity and old age. You can't do anything about either of those. And I just felt very deflated, and I had to kind of give up in my mind. And I had a strange event that happened. I mean, some years later, maybe age 22 or so, I went in and my vision had become slightly worse again, and I thought, okay. I went and got a new prescription, but I didn't actually make it up straight away. I mean, there was a few days that went by, but my glasses were still legal for driving, so there was nothing about like stopping me from working or anything like that. But I had a very serious car accident. It was a head-on collision on a motorway. Very poorly designed bit of road in New Zealand, where they had cars separated properly as they are on a motorway, but then the separation is taken away, and there's a tunnel. There's one single lane for one strip of traffic, and a double lane for the other traffic coming the other way, and the tunnel curves. I mean, really badly designed, and there was no sign about anything about slowing down for anyone. Everyone just piled through this strip of road at full speed, which was about 100 kilometers per hour. Yeah, I came through just driving up to it, and it was as per normal, nice sunny day, no sign of any problems, no cars in front of me. Came into the tunnel, and the tunnel was sopping wet because there'd been a thunderstorm about half an hour before. The road outside was dry, and completely unexpectedly, there was absolutely backed up traffic stopped because the motorway was ending just a little bit further on. Yeah, I saw it. I thought, okay, I'll just put my brakes on. No idea about the quality of the tunnel surface, and I aquaplaned. It was a corner going round to the left, and I just went straight ahead into the oncoming traffic. Thankfully, no one was killed.
Yeah.
Thankfully, no one was seriously injured. It was almost miraculous in some ways that the traffic that was coming my way stopped me from hitting the tunnel wall.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like I hit several cars, like bang, 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 and then there was one who came into the side of me. My car was twisted around swung round to the left, and I went sideways, and he just went straight into my side. And if I'd had a passenger, they would be a quadriplegic or probably dead.
Yeah.
I had no passengers. He had no passengers. Everybody else just was fine and as well. And it was stressful.
I can imagine.
It was stressful.
Was stressed just listening to this story.
Yeah. I had been, I think, knocked out. I did not know I had been knocked out. I just remember being disoriented. I came to without realizing I had come to, and there was no windscreen. I didn't realize that. The car was in a mess. There was no passenger. There was no passenger space next to me. That whole seat was on its side. The side of the car was squashed up, so the left-hand side of the car was right by my head. So I was just sitting there and thinking, I've got to get to my appointment. It's weird. Then I realized my glasses were gone. People came out to see how I was. What's your name? I could answer that. What day is it? I could answer that. Where were you going? I could answer that. We stood up, and showers of glass fell off me. And I thought, oh my God.
Like an action movie, basically.
Yeah. Fireman came up. He took me into the fire truck, and he put a big blanket around me. And he said to me very quietly, I just want to let you know, you have been very lucky. You won't realize that at first. One day. It was very important, that conversation. I was in shock for about 3.5 years.
Really?
I didn't realize how big the impact was. But when I came out of shock, I realized I thought I had died. That I was half alive, and I was just sort of going through the motions of life and everything. Anyway, back to the eyes. As I said, my glasses had disappeared, and I remember saying in the car as I was sitting there, people were coming by. Someone, have you seen any glasses anywhere? And someone found them on the road.
That's incredible.
He came back. They were chipped.
Yeah.
I've still got them somewhere, I think, but the lenses had been slightly damaged, but they were still functional. And put them back on. I was like, okay, I've got my glasses on. Very happy about that. Anyway.
All is good.
Yeah, all is fine. Yeah.
You said that you were not initially a Bates method teacher, and
no, it was the last thing on my mind. I had no idea such a thing existed. Now, the thing that got me was that after all of this, when I say it was a stressful experience, these were the things that I was coping with. The next day, I was able to speak to one of the other drivers who asked me which car I was in. And I told him, and he went silent, and I said, are you there? And then there was a very shocked whisper on the other side of the phone saying, I thought you were dead.
Yeah.
I went, after all this, about a week later, I went with my prescription. A totally different person. I went with my prescription and got it made up, got the glasses, and they were not strong enough. And I thought...
So you had lost even more sight.
Yeah. So there'd been 2 years, and I'd lost half a diopter.
Wow.
And I got the new glasses. They weren't strong enough. I went back to the optician, and I said, listen, they've made a mistake at the factory. They haven't done these glasses right. Can you put them in your machine and test what strength they are? And he said, they're absolutely perfect. They're exactly this prescription. Let's test your eyes again. And they've gone down another half diopter in about 7 days. And I said, I've had a really stressful experience, a very serious car accident. Has that affected my eyesight? And he said, oh, no. The eyes have nothing to do with the rest of the body. And being 22, you go, oh, this is a scam. I immediately thought,
these people.
How could he possibly say that?
Yeah.
He obviously believed it. And I understand the whole way that modality works.
Yeah.
This is it. But I thought, I'm not going to get yet another pair of glasses, because I knew what I'd been through. And I knew that vision was not deteriorating that quickly.
Yeah.
So I just kept the weaker prescription and
Mhm.
continued to use those for about a year, at
Mhm.
which point I went for another test. By then I was in England, and my vision didn't need any change on those glasses. So my eyes had actually improved
Adapted.
back
Yeah.
into the lenses
Yeah.
that were there. I still didn't know what else to do. I
Yeah.
didn't know anything about the Bates method, but I knew there was something here that was not quite right about how this was working. My brother very kindly lent me The Art of Seeing. Would you believe? And I read it. I thought it was interesting,
Like
but
Max.
yeah, that's pretty cool. I didn't think there was much I could do about it. I thought my vision, I mean, I'd increasingly more short-sightedness over, by now, 18 years or so. And I thought, well, yeah, I'm way too far down the tunnel for
Yeah.
this, whatever this is, to work. I mean, Aldous Huxley was almost blind. I didn't know that.
Wow. Oh my God.
So he had quite significant changes to his vision that
Yeah.
enabled him to read again. And he didn't go back to perfectly normal, but he had functional vision again. I didn't know what to do about it, but my brother, lent me the book, and I thought, oh yeah, well, whatever.
Yeah.
So I didn't mention the other injury from the car accident. That was simply foot on the brake. And the impact of around about sort of 100 kilometer per hour ton of metal coming towards you, there's a big jolt.
Yeah.
And so I had physio for my knee. There was quite a big sort of shock through there. There's nothing broken, but it was sore for a long time.
Yeah.
It resurfaced as a continual pain about 4 years later. And I couldn't kneel without pain. I couldn't sit without great discomfort, and walking was also uncomfortable. Bending the knee was the problem.
Yeah.
And I thought, what do I do about this? This is what actually leads to the vision thing, would you believe? My knee. All right. So it actually opened the door.
It gets more and more interesting.
Oh, there's so many bits and pieces. I had heard of the Alexander technique when I was quite young.
Which is?
Body mind release, I should say. It's like as a species, human beings, we're probably you could say, the most domesticated creature on earth.
Yeah.
Here we are in a tiny room. We don't have to worry about threats from anywhere, above, below, behind, and everything. So we can go slightly kind of less wild.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So, and the technique doesn't make you go wild. So let me just make that clear. But it helps you to free up patterns of use that are usually habitual, that you're not aware of, things that you do day by day, because we do things like sit in front of computers now. But a chair. I mean, that is actually an invention that was not part of our deep evolutionary makeup. It wasn't something we thought, okay, now we've got to learn how to sit in a chair. It became the custom.
Yeah.
Mass education. Every child learns to sit.
Yeah, that's
for a long time, every day. Yeah, these are just examples, but there are many, many things that people do they don't realize. So it was developed by an actor, Alexander technique, about the 1800s, and he was having trouble not with his vision or his knee. He was having trouble with his voice. So he was trying to repair the problems. He wanted to act. He kept losing his voice on stage. And he was doing a lot of things to his body that were unusual, things he had learned and become accustomed to. It's breaking free of habits. It's learning how to pause before you go into an action. And it's very freeing.
Oh, I should do it.
Yeah, you have to do it. Yeah. You find it in drama schools, you find it in music schools, sometimes in public schools. Like Eton College has Alexander technique for their musicians and also their actors. It's gone into the sports as well. So I work with tennis players. I became a teacher of that as well. I teach the Alexander technique. So I heard of it. I started doing some lessons for my knee, and it was. And
you just didn't want to give up, let's say, to the idea that you should just accept.
I went to the doctor. I got a diagnosis, a prognosis of what was going on. They did an X-ray, and they said, you've actually got the beginning of arthritis. Statistically, about 90% chance of being in a wheelchair in 6 years. 24, 25 years old. I remember just being I've had enough.
Yeah, I mean, one thing after the other.
You know,
Okay.
I've had enough. I'm not doing that. So I
To
think to
look at
myself.
more positive.
So I went as, you know, radically different direction. I said, I'm not going to go down that path. I'm going to try and find out all the alternative ways that people have approaching arthritic conditions,
Yeah.
along with diet changing as well.
Mhm.
I then also went to Alexander technique as a way
Mhm.
of trying to recalibrate how my body,
Mhm.
how I was using my body,
Yeah.
or indeed discovering how I was misusing
Mhm,
my
mhm.
body. I'm not in a wheelchair, quite a bit older than
Yeah.
30. Yes, but anyway, in the midst of the Alexander lessons, always the glasses were taken off. I would, you know, leave them off, and the teacher would ask me to take them off. So I would always have no glasses on.
Mhm.
And I came up one day after a lesson, and I came up from the table. He brought me up from the table, and I looked outside, and I could see absolutely crystal clear vision. I was looking at the grouting around bricks around 80 yards away, 80 meters away. So it was detail that was beyond what my glasses could give me.
Yeah, yeah.
And I thought, holy moly, I'm going to look into the Bates method that I read about. Maybe there's a chance here.
Yeah.
And I then sought out lessons. It happened a couple of times in the Alexander, this incredible vision. I thought, okay, there's obviously something I'm doing that's preventing me from seeing. There's nothing to do with heredity.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with old age or
Yeah.
anything like that. It's
So what are some of the exercises that they made you do and that now you also use with your own students?
Yes, it's all about relaxation. And it's relaxation of the eye and mind.
That's
Yeah.
difficult.
So it's not just the eye, because in conventional ophthalmology or optometry, it's pretty much wholly a physical model. It's looking at, here is this optic instrument.
Yeah.
And they don't look at the person who's actually doing the seeing behind it. As soon as you engage that person, they will give you information about how the vision changes and shifts according to different ways of thinking. But you need to just gently guide them, because you know, often they don't know what they're looking for at first. And we don't really exercises as a good word, because people understand what that means, but it's not to do with strengthening. It's to do with awakening. So they are awareness, sort of stimulation techniques, you might say, or vision games or vision experiences. So you say, here's a way of looking at the world that you haven't tried before.
Yeah.
Just try this out for a bit. And we do simple things like palming, which is to palming, P-A-L-M. Yeah.
Okay.
So with your hands, you're just simply putting both hands over
I will try it now.
each eye. That's it. You're doing that good. Yeah. So the fingers are sort of sometimes gently overlapping on the forehead, and you let the fingers relax, and you allow your eyes to close, and there's no pressure on the eyeball. Don't do this while you're driving, right? So just, and let the hands relax. And you would normally be sitting, we're not sitting in the most comfortable way, but you would have a table with you know, a good cushion or two for you to rest your elbows on. So you're not having to stoop down to your hands. Your hands come right to the level of where your eyes are. And with the eyes closed, you just say to yourself, or notice to yourself, that there is nothing for them to do. They're getting a rest from color, from shape, from form, a rest from interpretation, from, you know, sort of understanding, reading, and all that sort of thing. They're just nothing for them to do. And people have very different experiences with this. I mean, you know, some people start palming and they will see lots of colors, or, you know, they will see maybe sort of an interference pattern, sort of a grayish haze or something. And others will say, well, this is, you know, really black. It's, you know, hardly anything here at all. It's really like sleeping. And still others maybe have spectacular images. There's one fellow who contacted me who wanted to know, he thought everyone experienced this, but when he palmed, when he had his eyes even shut, he would see other worlds and all sorts of amazing imagery, and it would just flood through straight away. And I thought, oh, I really want to work with him, but he just wanted to ask the question about that. How did that feel?
Yeah, very refreshing.
Isn't it good?
I wanted to stay there and interrupt the
Yeah, interrupt the podcast. Exactly. Yeah.
See you tomorrow.
What we want is that the sensation of relaxation that you can build in this, you can actually carry into seeing itself. So when you take your hands down, you remember that sensation and you're looking at the world with softer, kinder eyes.
Yeah, that's so important nowadays. What are some stories of students, or like maybe there is one story that stayed with you that really changed? Like, do they come to you quite desperate?
Sometimes it's really simple for them and they change very rapidly. It depends. I mean, in general, that depends on how long they've been wearing glasses, because they can be quite entrenched in that kind of state. If someone's just recently had some issues, then they can be quite flexible and say, oh gosh, this feels much better. Now I see what I've been doing. Whereas a person who's been wearing glasses a long time, they might take a long time before they get a sensation, oh, I can see now, like maybe 5, 6, 7, 8 weeks later, or even several months later, they say, oh gosh, now I notice what I've been doing. How far they get with it will vary from person to person as well. But also, every personality influences how it affects them.
Really?
Yeah, you can never tell what kind of experience a person's going to have.
That's fascinating.
It makes it really interesting.
It's like, what are your favorites too?
There was a lady who, because she was having trouble with reading distance, so it's presbyopia. This is sort of around the age of 40 to 50, sometimes earlier, sometimes later. They suddenly find, oh, my arms aren't long enough anymore, and they want they can't focus near so easily. She was kind of thinking all the different techniques. There's a lot of playfulness around what you're doing with each person, and she thought they were all a bit ridiculous, sort of like this, but she was relaxing. She was getting better and better at that. We had a day when I noticed how well she was aware of when tension came into her eyes. And I asked her, with her eyes feeling very, very floaty, very, very comfortable, I said, can you lift your arm and allow your eyes to remain relaxed? She discovered she couldn't. Just the very simple process of thinking, I'm going to lift my arm. So we're looking here at very subtle levels of tension. And the eyes are like sea anemones. Those little creatures in the sea, they've got little feelers out, and if you ripple the water, they pull them all in. The eyes are a bit like that here, because so they're so sensitive. And she said, no, it's really tight. And I said, well, how about I lift your arm for you? So I was going to grab her arm and just lift it. And she immediately burst into tears. And from somewhere deep inside came this, no one ever does anything for me. Really deep emotion. And this is what we get with this work. It can go very deep into a person's quietly held and even unconsciously held beliefs about what life has to be like. And they suddenly realize there's a release there, and of course tears just flow. And I managed to lift her arm, and it was as free as her eyes. She was over the moon. The feeling in her body was complete. She was just so happy. So then I moved on to say, let's see if I can move your head in the same way. So your eyes are much more close proximity to the eyes. So I just had my hands, one hand on her chin, one hand at the back of the head, just to sort of gently see if it would move from side to side. And there's a little hold, a little stickiness. And then she managed to let that go as well. And she was on cloud 9. She was... I don't think she paid. I think she walked out with such a big smile. She just sailed down the path and out onto the street.
Fantastic.
And came back the next week and said, I have to tell you what happened. I went into the main city centre. You won't have seen, because it's been changed since then, but there used to be an underpass where the, what's that called? That's big new shopping precinct. Westgate?
Yes.
Westgate.
Yes.
Yeah, there used to be an underpass there. And she said, I climbed over the banister from the roadside to the inside. So I climbed over it back and forth like a drunk university student amongst all the Saturday shoppers.
Wow.
She was absolutely unbelievably happy and free. And it lasted all day, and she went to bed, and she woke up the next morning, it was still there.
Mm-hmm.
And she picked up her newspaper,
Mm-hmm.
which was the reading distance.
Mm-hmm.
It was out of focus, and she thought, I don't care a damn. And as soon as she thought that, it was in focus.
So it's like magic, or
yeah, well,
like it's really like
the eyes are they're not disconnected from the rest of the body. They are integral to the nervous system. They now say, in fact, the retina is like an outer level of the nervous system itself. It's actually directly connected.
It's incredible. It's a powerful tool, and it's also a powerful comfort, because it's the way we filter the world, no? Like it all comes through the eyes. And I always think, when I have a friend, for instance, who often has panic attacks, and when she does have these panic attacks, like she always closes her eyes and goes into her own world. And seeing is a power, but it's also sometimes you see too much, or you perceive yourself as, you know, someone who, as you say, is not being taken care of, or, you know, has a specific role in the reality, and you don't want to see that. And I mean, the ability of just relaxing and letting that go has a profound impact on how you experience also bodily and physical functions.
That's right. That's absolutely right. Yeah.
So how is your experience, because you are aware of eyes and of seeing probably all the time? So when you go outside or perceive the reality, are you constantly thinking about the fact that you're seeing, or do you do some unconscious exercise with your eyes? What is your own experience?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there are simple ones that are so easy to do. I think it's important to understand that these techniques are not, in a way, teaching you something that was invented on top of what we already have inside. One of the things people don't realize about Dr. Bates, I mean, he had his theories of what was happening, and he had a theory that the accommodation, the focusing function of the eye was performed by the outer muscles, the extrinsic muscles around the eyeball itself, and not to do with the lens. He was not correct about that. It was a bit of a black and white situation. He was saying, oh, it's only these, and the conventional view is it's only the lens that does the accommodation. Indeed, it does the most fine adjustments and everything. But if the eye is under strain or stress or tension, then it can actually produce tension around those muscles, which causes the elongation for myopia, or, you know, there's sort of other aspects of tension that can cause the sort of shortening of the eyeball for long distance vision. What am I talking about? Hypermetropia. So when we're looking at these techniques, what he actually did, because that theory came along after he already had started helping people with their vision. He was an ophthalmologist. He knew about giving them glasses and operating. He had done lots of this sort of thing, but he started discovering what people experience when they have normal vision and how they use their eyes, what they actually do with their eyes that's actually healthy for them. And he started to teach that to people who had difficulties. That was the crux of the method. He was then trying to explain it, because he had loads of colleagues saying, what on earth are you doing? And he wanted to help them understand why it might work. He wasn't fully correct, and indeed although he was very dogmatic about it, and was like, it was this and nothing else, and I'm very black and white, and have you noticed? He actually he had expressed that he didn't really know what the correct theory was behind what was happening, but it was already happening. But everyone looks at his theory and say he based the method on this theory. No. So he was teaching people simple things like, if you walk down the street, as you walk along, there are cars nowadays. Back in his day, there's horses and chariots and stuff. It's like
much better, much more romantic.
There's a story of him being taken to the ambulance in a horse-drawn carriage. So sorry, what I'm trying to say, there's a story of him being taken to the hospital in a horse-drawn ambulance. Lovely. But as you walk, like if there's a post or something, it becomes larger as you approach it. It takes up more space on your retina. It actually starts to have the impression that it's moving in the opposite direction because it's coming nearer, right? So you can think of yourself, I'm doing the walking, but actually to the eye, it looks like it's moving.
Yeah.
And people with good vision get this really quickly. People with poor vision struggle. So if you get them starting to experience that, then the eye is going to be in a better state than it was before.
So it's just a different way of seeing.
It is.
Again, the art of seeing.
The art of seeing. It is very much the art of seeing. If you work on this, if you decide I'm going to do this and you think, okay, just maybe sway from side to side and look out the window and notice the window frame is moving, it's kind of perspective changes. I mean, an artist will understand this very quickly. Say, oh, if I stand here, that's a better kind of arrangement of everything. If you do this continuously, then there's this sort of sensation that the whole world is actually moving around us. And the more you do it, the deeper it goes. One week, I decided every morning I was going to do half an hour of this in the morning and then think about it through the day as much as I could, just like noticing it.
Everything is moving.
It got deeper and deeper and deeper. And by the Friday morning, it was feeling fantastic. I thought, I can't believe how easy and lovely this is. And then I woke up on Saturday and I had no memory of the previous 5 days of what I had been doing. I've just had my week.
You had just focused on seeing and the movement.
It had gone. The whole project had disappeared in my mind. This was not. When I say like there's something, it's like there's something wrong with him. It was like that's what someone might assume. But this is not an unusual kind of oddity about this work because we're going into the person's almost like the subconscious aspects of themselves. And the door opened for me to see all this movement. And then suddenly, Saturday morning, it was gone. I had no memory of it. Sunday morning, I still had no memory. Monday, I thought, what did I do last week? There was something I did. And after a bit of thinking, I thought, oh my God, I did that the sway and it was feeling fantastic. And then my mind shut it down, said, that's enough for now.
In all of this, are you never afraid of like sort of losing control?
It's a good question because this is the thing because people,
at least this is how I perceive my own eyes, right?
Like
it's the things that allow me to have control over where I'm going and sort of monitoring that everything is okay. And then I shut them down only when I go to sleep.
This is so interesting. Such a great question because the eyes are partially what they call it. You have the autonomic nervous system, right? There are functions in the eyes that are autonomic. They just do themselves. There are functions in our body that are just doing themselves, like the heartbeat. We do not have control over. But some people, maybe deep meditation and things, you could do that sort of thing. But there are basic functions that are saying that's going to be looked after. And the eyes can be disturbed and placed into a mode of seeing that is not natural to them. But because it's become familiar and because it was necessary, the person has decided, this is how I have to look at the world. This is how I have to use my eyes. They may be copying from parents or even teachers. They may be, I remember when my vision first went, there was a really difficult teacher in the classroom and there were kids all around me having trouble seeing.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Right.
Everyone was so
it's like, oh, this is not a safe place to look.
See that.
We don't want to have good vision in this situation. It just doesn't feel safe. So we were all protecting ourselves, and this is often, people don't like to think of it this way, but they think, oh, it's just hereditary, or it's just an accident. You can't, nothing we can do. They don't look at these situations where if we'd been left alone, our vision probably would have just come back to normal. But if you get glasses on, you have to hold on to that particular prescription in order to see through the glasses. If you're then told, don't ever take them off, which we all pretty much all were, you must wear them all the time to protect your eyes. And indeed, people can get into trouble if they've got a situation they can't deal with, and it just gets worse and worse that way. What you discover is that there is an autonomic level of control. that's actually more powerful and more healthy for your eyes and your being. Right. Right, because you know, the world we live in,
It probably has to do with personality,
yeah.
I guess.
I mean, I say to people all the time, I say, look, you know, when you wake up, you don't sit there thinking, I've got to make sure my heart beats. You don't sit there thinking, I've got to make sure I've got 2 legs today.
Yeah.
These are automatically, the eyes are meant to be part of that certainty. You go, see what my eyes see.
So you should let them play, and
Yes.
you know, thank you again so much.